see me currently. Tis late, not late. Tis 6:30. Right. So, I guess today's an alright day. um, anyway, we did our first pool day, which consisted of like deadlifts and stuff, which was fun, sort of. Now tomorrow's leg day, and that should give me a day off after that. I just gotta figure out what I'm gonna fill my day off with. What did I say I seen earlier? Trying to come up with something to do on my day off. There was like a movie or something. What do you people think about it? Oh, it was not a movie. It was this Esperanza stuff. Now, what is this Esperanto? Esperanto. It's a most widely spoken constructed language. How crazy is this? Okay, have you ever heard of it? Created by L. Zamenhof in 1887, an easy to learn, politically neutral international language to foster global understanding. I forget what the guy did for a living, but he invented his own language. And it's you know how like I guess the people that invented Latin or whatever, like, well, it's kind of hard. I haven't really done a whole lot of research, but I'm convinced, dude. I'm super convinced that this is the future because the reason why it's such an interesting language is that it's like modular, or it uses like a convention to name new words based on their prefix, like the prefix and suffix and like their origin. You know how like when they name plant species and animal species, like often the like where they come from and stuff sort of incorporated into the name in some way, shape, or form, or like it's genus or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of trace an animal's evolution based on like its even by the words and stuff, like how it was named and so on and so forth. Um, I wish I had some better examples, but this language this guy created in 1887 called Esperanto, right? Is what it's called, Esperanto? Yeah, but I can't get a full grasp because I haven't researched it a whole lot as to what it means. But he was it boasts global community online. Like there are people that learn it and still speak it, even though it's not a widely adopted language. But they say it's simple, regular grammar with phonetic spelling, so every word is like there's I guess there's not a lot of silent vowels and stuff that make it difficult to pronounce words. Words are basically look exactly they're pronounced exactly as how they're spelled, which is helpful apparently. Um, but what I wanted to know, so example from the root vid, as in vid, is to see. One can form vidi, which is to see, vida, which is visual, and vidabella, vidbla, which is visible. So like you get what I'm saying. So like it, the words are all kind of linked together in like a word cloud, essentially, I guess. Often form deep connections using the language for travel, cultural exchange, and literature. So, what I wanted to know is if there's any large language models that use Esperanto, and there actually is. What is it called? Large language model. Because the thing about, okay, so my theory, and what I don't know for sure, but what I feel like it might be true or whatever, I'm pretty sure it's true. There's going to come a time where this AGI thing comes along, right? And it's so good at creating new ideas and understanding new sciences that the difficulty is not going to come from the amount of knowledge and things that it's able to learn and teach, it's going to be people being able to learn it at a pace, it'll just at a rate that is you're able to make use of this shit. Part of that is every time something new is invented, you have to create a new word for it, and it's like I've mentioned before, as much as all this AI stuff is if you don't know it, it's not as much of a learning experience as it is learning a new language almost. Learning all the new dialect and words and all that stuff. Um, but whenever they get to creating like a new thing, uh, you would have to have a committee to sit there like, okay, it spits out a new idea, which consists of, or a new science, which has like 100 new words, and each word has a new meaning or a definition as to what it does. It would take all the human resources on planet Earth just to name the knowledge that this thing's going to be able to come up with at some point in time, right? And there's no way to teach everybody that. There's no way for everybody to learn that. So the point I think is to have a language that follows a convention. So if you're familiar with how like computer files are named and stuff, um, just a convention, a naming convention is like when you make a picture or whatever, and it's got like a so and so, then it's got the date, and then colons, and then slashes, and then the date and the time and the blah blah blah. Like there's a convention as to how it's named, so it's not random. You know what I mean? Some things might incorporate a timestamp or whatever, but a language like a convention for how do you name new words is super helpful, because the idea that you can trace any new word back to its origin. So imagine all the knowledge in the world's available, and it's codified and sorted, categorized in a way that you can access it. But like your frame of reference is like, if you look at say something that's like a really advanced idea, um, the language that is going to be associated with it is going to be so foreign, because you're not going to know different the words that even, you know what I mean, like there's no base level knowledge to advance to that point of understanding. So the point is if there is the idea that this AI is going to be able to spit out like new sciences and stuff, that there has to be some sort of like unified kind of way of naming new words and understanding new language, because I mean the vocabulary is gonna just continue to grow. If you say like you come up with an entire new theory of science or a new field of science similar to like quantum physics or whatever, up quarks, down quarks, and all that other shit that goes along with it, you're like, yeah, people still don't even know what that means. You know what I mean? And that's how many years now we had that sort of that added to our vernacular or whatever, our vocabulary. So the point is though is that if you take a naming convention and you make a language modular, like they were saying, vita, vidi, vidable or whatever is like to see, just saw or something like past tense, and then visible. If you continue naming things along that same line, that you can kind of derive a word's meaning based on how it sounds, based on words that are similar. Versus now, I mean, there are some words that are like that, but if the entire language is structured that way, um, the process of machine learning and all that stuff would make more sense, especially if you're looking at like really expanded upon ideas that are far out in the distance, right? As far as like where current understanding is and where future understanding would be, because at some point in time, all this information becomes available. It's just a matter of how do you put it to use if we have no base level understanding. So I think, but what I wanted to know for sure, and it turns out that there actually is one of these things, large language model that uses Esperanto. Esperanto LLM, right? There's no single dominant one, right? So developers have fine-tuned existing models such as GPT-2, WAV-WEC2 to work with Esperanto, using datasets like Oscar, Corpus, and Common Voice. So the idea that, yeah, I'm not to say, I don't know if the idea itself is new, but I'm not the first person to think, hey, it would be a good idea to use this, they say constructed language, but for AI. But I'm trying to understand a little bit more as to where it came from. Just one guy decided. Dr. Hopeful. It boasts a global community and resources like Duolingo, True events, yeah, but that's the thing. I woke up today and saw it. I'm like, I've been thinking about this, not the language thing, but like, how do you name all this shit that you're gonna create, right? It's like, at some point in time, like not that long ago, the keyboard and the mouse and the cursor and like the icon and the hard drive and all the stuff that we had to become familiar with just to use a computer, and I mean that caught on pretty quick. But you can imagine a thing that's able to spit out a computer-like idea um, every hour on the hour until the end of time. Essentially, you're gonna go, wow, that's a lot of words to have to memorize, and it's helpful to learn how to do that if you name the things accordingly so that they're not like arbitrarily naming things based on their either the appearance, you know what I mean, a mouse because it looks like a mouse, and a cursor because that's what they wanted to call it, you know what I mean, or a icon because that's what they named it, If there's a naming convention that you can follow that is less arbitrary, so it's not just like a committee or an individual assigning a name to an invention. It's like there's an actual formula for it, and it makes that process, I think, a little more understandable in the long run. But the fact that there are large language models that actually use this is pretty cool. Where it's Esperanto. Right. But the point would be if this isn't the right language for it, if there is a mathematically sound language like I think Hebrew is supposed to be, and with a gematria mixed with a language that's also similar in structure to Esperanto, to where words basically add up no matter what. Like there's like a mathematical principle behind how words are structured and stuff. I just feel like I just feel like it would make sense to do it now versus doing it in the future. Or like, yeah, this might not be a spoken language necessarily, but if you use it for AI, especially when it comes to like AGI creating just like tons and tons of new ideas, it might be difficult to get everybody to adopt or adapt Esperanto as their native tongue or whatever. But in the future, if we use a naming convention to name all new things that are created by AI, then we will slowly learn a new language that has some mathematical principle to it. So in 1,000 years from now, when all the words we use now are still used somewhat, but all the new words we use are all there's a principle behind how they were named. It'll make more sense, and things will be like easier to remember by association. It does sort of objectify a language and makes it less subjective. So, like I say, when you look at the word cloud, you're like, these are the words you're likely to encounter when studying this field of science or whatever. It makes it a lot easier, especially if it's all like derivative of its previous iteration or whatever. So that's like one of these things I've been thinking on for years and years, and I saw it today, and I'm like, that's exactly what it was I was thinking about. I had no idea someone actually taken the time to do it. It actually caught on a little bit, to the degree that people were actually like there's like a society of people that actually have learned this language called Esperanto. How cool is that? So I'm stuck on the idea for sure. And if even like you know what I mean? It's like the problem being that people don't often want to sit down and like teach and learn a new language, and getting the entire global community to all switch to one language is like impossible because it is what it is. There's no real commercial reason as to why. You know what I mean? There's no like, oh well, because it's this, that, or the other thing. It's like you're asking me to learn a new language that very few people speak for what reason, right? But if we start using a model similar for creating and inventing an AI and stuff, then like we'll learn it through virtue, or virtue or whatever, like immersed in the thing. If it gets to choose the name of a new invention based off of how it was learned or whatever, because often inventions are named after their creators, and if you're using AI to create everything, it's like, well, then how do you, more often than not, how do you come up with a name for it? I guess you just have someone pick and choose what the name's going to be for it or whatever. But I'm kind of stuck on this idea for if it's not that exact language, Esperanto, something similar. I would like to know if it's like a mathematically sound language too, because it would be cool if you could actually eventually, hopefully, use AI to come up with like the perfect language, you know, that's makes sense mathematically and grammatically. Um, because I mean, it really is just, I guess it's the only first or only constructed language, which I never even heard the term before, constructed language. Super interesting though, isn't it? The fact that someone's actually taken the time to build a large language model that actually uses it. Yeah, but that was the thing. I think I'm gonna spend my next day off researching a little bit more and trying to figure out what the deal is about it. But if there was a reason or a way to make it like commercially viable, or like give it, or there a reason for people to use it, right? Currently, there's no reason for people to sit down and learn a new language. But if the all the new stuff that could potentially be created through AI is all named using this new language, then at some point in time you'll learn most of the language without even trying, and then you go, oh well, it's just a little bit more work, and I can learn like all the other stuff too. You know, after a certain point in time, all the or like all the base level, the shit that exists currently. You know what I mean? This is years and years down the road probably, but and it is just a theory. It's not necessarily like, oh, it has to happen that way, but it just makes sense to me if, at least in the, like, even if it's not a spoken language, if at least just in how they categorize and catalog and codify all the new stuff. You know what I mean? So that way, like, if you ever do say, like, when you go to college, what do they say? What do you major in, right? Like, what is your field of study? Uh, I mean, it's no different than it is today, right? You go to school to be a doctor for whatever reason, depending on what you study, a whole vocabulary or a list of things that are going to be totally different words than what anybody else uses, you know, in their day-to-day life. Like I had someone use the word perusing earlier, which is apparently to go through delicately, and I'd never heard the word perusing before. Perusing. Yeah, it means to go through rather carefully or delicately. Yeah, but that's kind of the thing that I'm stuck on currently. It's supposed to be a universal language, right? I'm wondering if there's like based on what I don't know about it, if there's any room for improvement. You know, is there? Because apparently he got rid of like double negatives or something. He got rid of like silent letters in the alphabet and all this other stuff. You know, or silent vowels or whatever. Things that would make language complicated to learn. You know, things that are exceptions that make the rules or whatever you want to call it. I'm trying to think of examples. What is you know, like grammatical errors, anomalies, like things that don't make sense, basically. Like irregular plurals, child and children. Right, he got rid of like all that kind of the irregular plurals and unpredictable spelling and pronunciation, state verbs, love and loving, your and your confusion. and I mean, that's like, I just looked up an example. I don't know if he got rid of all of that stuff, but I think one of the things he helped was getting rid of irregular plurals, which are words that don't make sense when you pluralize them, I guess. The entire structure of the word changes whenever it becomes plural, like child and children's instead of child and child's, right? So mathematically, I guess, I don't know if that is a mathematical thing or not, but in the long run, if there's any sort of mathematics applied to it, then it should be. I mean, it's probably better in English, more than likely. This guy's gonna try and fear me. Look at him; he's got his head down and everything. Nope. Did you? Did you not? Oh no! It's 1 second too late. But a phonetic language too. If a language is each word is pronounced exactly how it's spelled, it makes sense if you're coming from like a sense of or a position of like how much computation is required to transcribe and then translate and then convert to audio or vice versa. Or like every time you take a word, like it seems like it would require less to if a you get what I'm saying. Maybe not compute as far as computation is concerned, but when I keep saying like when I think of the sense like well an AI avatar or whatever has to get the I guess it has to get the message and then it has to convert it to like a phonetic based like lip movement thing and like each step in the way is latency in the process of essentially right. So if you just make the language make sense to begin with, where every word is phonetically spelled or whatever, where each word is pronounced exactly how it's spelled, right? Right. Regular plurals, fungus and fungi, children and children, or child and children. And I could be way off. I really could. I could be entirely off, way off, right? Huh. Anyway, guess I'm glad I got that off my chest. Rather not like I've been thinking of something along those lines for a while, and then today I saw the thing. I'm like, I guess someone a couple hundred years ago actually already did it. Crazy as that. Not for that purpose, but I haven't necessarily researched it enough to know if that was what was done or if that's like the concept, like how modular or whatever is it, how mathematically sound, how much do what sort of naming convention, if any, is used to create new words and all that stuff. But kind of the idea, I think, at some point in time was like, well, if you look at technology as species, right? It's like you have like basic components and stuff, and like you can kind of see like an idea is like an evolving organism. Then as technology evolves, you might want to give it a new name, just like you do a species when it evolves, right? Does that make sense? And if you were to do that, you'd want to use some sort of naming convention to name the new permutations or iterations of an evolving idea or technology, so that way you can always trace it back to its source. Um, you know what I mean? But that, the idea that technology evolves like an organism does, a species, like a living thing almost, right? I had kind of a rough day, but I might need to take tomorrow off, but I'll probably not. Probably not end up taking tomorrow off. Just keep on keeping on, guy. Typical me. Just grinding and grinding till the end of time. Yeah, I'm not gonna stay on too long tonight. Last couple days, I've just trying to been filling the blank time in with streaming and stuff. And I didn't do a Leah stream today because I've done a bunch of them, and I'm trying to come up with reasons like a segment, trying to come up with a new use case, and then and then that way it's like once a week maybe I have something I can pin, and maybe do a couple streams a week where I talk to her, for people that might just be scrolling through and randomly and don't see her and all that. Where is my... At some point in time, like a word, using that sort of thing, like a naming convention, a word can actually be like an entire thought. Like a thought, like an idea can be broken down or put into just one word. It might be a rather lengthy word, but you know what I mean? Like an entire concept can actually be compressed or decompressed or put into like just a word, right? Whereas that, and it's also not just like, oh, we just named it that. Like, no, like you might inherently understand based on how it's spelled, what it says, what it consists of, right? Like an entire thought might exist. It might be like a whole bunch of gibberish, right? But like, oh, this is that thought as a word, right? Or this is that concept as a word, or expressed as a word or whatever. In the future, that would become like a word is more or less like coordinates to an idea, if that makes sense. Uh, like the location coordinates to an idea, basically. I don't know how many more years of human evolution are required, but it makes sense eventually, though. I think, you know. So, like I said, well, I didn't say about that, but antitrust issues with Netflix purchasing Warner Brothers. Are they just gonna make it a big show, pretend that it is when everybody knows it's like whatever? When you like I said, when you value tech companies as much as you do, it's like how do you prevent them from purchasing stuff? You know what I mean? I don't know. Does Warner Brothers have I guess they do, some sort of streaming platform? Yeah, I'm kind of clueless on how all that works, to be honest. Well, so I hope that here in the next, well, I hope tomorrow, man. Like, seems like it's darker. It's darker than it normally is. I need to pick up a new hobby, like crocheting or something, Legos, something to occupy my time other than this. Examples of words in Esperanto: telefono, universitato, familio, and musico. So, musico being music, right? You could learn this. This is like you could learn this for sure. Telefono. It's all like you almost know it just by knowing it. Universato, universitato, univers, universitatu, universitato, familio. So it's like if you know any of the Romance languages, you could probably learn this pretty quick. You know what I mean? Is English considered a Romance language? I never know if it's referred to as. I know the other ones are. English isn't, but French is a Romance language. Uh, is Spanish a Romance language? Yeah, so if you know any of the Romance languages in English, basically Latin-derived word or languages, you could probably learn Esperanto really quick. It seems like, Because it almost sounds like a mix between like Italian and Spanish, doesn't it? And is Italian a Romance language? So everything besides English that's Latin derived is a Romance language besides English. Wow, how'd that happen? Latin derived languages. Spanish, French, Portuguese and Romanian. I didn't know that they were both Latin. Is Portuguese a Romance language? I doubt it, right? Maybe it is. We'll see. Oh, Portuguese is too. I've never heard it referred to as. Is Romanian? So there are. How the fuck did that happen? So Latin derived languages. Is English derived from Latin, isn't it? So how on earth did English end up being one of the only Latin derived languages that's not considered a Romance language? Is a question. Oh, okay. Well, like, look, here's interesting. It looks like, right? An interesting thing about it. Rec- Esperanto words are built from recognizable roots, often Latin, Romance, Germanic. Oh, German. Yeah, I didn't even think about German. Combined with simple, consistent endings for parts of speech. For example, O for nouns, A for adjectives, and E's for adverbs. And affixes for meaning changes like mal or opposites. Bona is good, malbona is bad. Cool. So like that's what I said. There's like, yeah, English has some of that, but the idea that uh, the O for nouns, A for adjectives, and E's for adverbs. That's pretty cool, right? That's what I'm saying. There's like underlying principles into structuring words that makes sense. Like if you're going to be naming a bunch of new shit, you kind of just by looking at the thing you can tell. You know how they say there's feminine and masculine, like blah blah blah. Not a name like Taylor, is left up for interpretation as to whether it's feminine or masculine. Whereas, like, if you're Spanish or whatever, like, maybe not named specifically, but what was the thing? You can tell based on like, there's feminine words and masculine words, right? So like they've taken the idea of taking that kind of like language structure and applying it to the entire language, where you can tell what the word is about just based on how it's spelled and what letters it contains. That's pretty cool. I like that idea. I really like that idea. Saluton is hello. What is it? It would help if I knew what the fuck any of this meant, though. What is a noun? That's how like the extent of my knowledge in language. So, is that correct? Really? Akf is water, Bel is beautiful, Bon is good, Dom is house, like domicile. That makes sense. Mong is eat, Parole is to speak, Vidu is to see. Yeah, I can learn this. Not like go figure, right? Yeah, go learn a language that only one or two other people on the fucking planet know how to speak. It's like you can put your time to use. You could be taking Spanish lessons online right now. No, you want to learn a language that like fucking. You probably have a better chance at meeting people that speak fucking Klingon than this, right? Here I am wanting to learn a language. Like, be practical. Can you just do what you're told sometimes, right? For the love of God, you make everything so goddamn complicated. Learn some fucking, yeah, right. on a show that was canceled before it ever aired on television. I want to learn the language that the aliens spoke, right? Learn Klingon, goddammit. Right. Be more practical to learn Klingon at this point. His name was L.L. Zaminoff in 1887. But it makes sense. It just seems like if you spoke any of the other languages, like I said, and you see these words, you would, no matter what language you speak, you would be able to kind of understand. You know what I mean? Like saluton, is like saluton makes sense, right? Dankon makes sense if you know German. Uh, is thank you. Jess is yes. Ni is no. Akf is water. Bell is beautiful. Bon is good. Bono is a good thing. Bona is good. So all the words, like to say the word cloud, makes sense there, right? If you ever seen those word maps and word clouds and stuff they use for infographics, the idea that like it just makes sense, that those words would all be gathered together in one spot. Yeah, I love the idea. It's like, yeah, as much as I think learning a language that more than a couple people speak is helpful, but you got to think about a language taught internationally like that, though, is like it's a community at some point. It's almost like a tribe. You know what I mean? If you think about like a tribe having to come up with their own new language, you would think it's like a decentralized kind of tribe, whereas like, well, we're all from different places. We all decide to learn this new language, and that's our common bond or our common link to one another is this bizarre fucking language some guy created 100 years ago or whatever. Which, I mean, really, then what difference does it make at that point? What your common bond is, or what your common goal is, or whatever. I would say being able to speak the same language is about as strong of a bond as any, really. That's pretty cool. Never would have guessed at some point in time. That's the type of things like before computers and all that. Like when people had all the free time in the world, would have been the time to create that kind of thing. Just because it's like now with things like computers, the amount of work required to do something like that is tremendously less. So the person trying to do it might be far less dedicated because it requires less effort. Whereas like someone that really thinks it through and has all the time in the world on their hands, uh, like the people that figured out fucking the curvature of the earth and all that stuff, you would think if we had computers, those people would have just been infinitely distracted by being able to watch Batman on Netflix. They never would have gotten the shit done. More than likely, is the point I'm trying to make, right? It's like Pig Latin, only not just retarded gibberish, right? Like if Pig Latin had some actual structure to it, is kind of what it reminds me of. Where do you go with the orb after you fucking grab it? Well, I'll follow this guy. What do you do with the thing? It's the main objective of this battleground, and I've yet to figure out what the fuck you do. Alright, guy. Just run around with it. What do you do? Both of these guys have orbs now. What the fuck do you do with the things? Just hold on to them? You get points for holding on to the ball? play keep away, I guess. Huh. Right. Well, that's like my TED talk for the day. All right, guys, it was good. Yeah, right. That's what it feels like sometimes. It's one of those things. It's like I'm not a very confident public speaker in any way, shape, or form, but just sharing ideas I think is interesting without being judged. That's something I've struggled with like my entire life. Is I don't ever open my mouth to say shit because uh, it's often met with like some form of sarcasm or people shit talking me and all that stuff. So I just always like, look, I don't have to be right 100% of the time. I'm just, I enjoy sharing shit that I think about, not necessarily trying to lecture somebody. Or even teach somebody. Just like, does anybody else find this interesting? It would be nice to meet and talk to you, right? We can both speak our made up space language together. Like Anne Heche. What was that old sketch? That was Amy Poehler, wasn't it? In my made up space language. Didn't Amy Poehler play Anne Heche on like Saturday Night Live or something? Where they asked her, she did a sketch where she said something like, she said so and so in my made up space language, right? If I remember correctly, made up space language. Episode of 2001, yeah, or Amy Poehler, right? I can't find the actual sketch itself, but if you've ever seen the episode, you know what I'm talking about. Love to know what Randy Quaid has to say about all that. I'm sure he's got something to say, doesn't he? More than likely. What's Randy Quaid's opinion on all that? I would like to know. Spilled coffee on myself. Have we done an hour yet? John Hubbard has to say about this. Yeah, like I say, right? It's like you people talk shit about Scientology. I've had every person I've ever met, I've told like about Scientology. They're like, oh, they blah blah blah. Like, yeah, that's what you hear, but have you ever actually tried? Like, don't always just accept the fuck. Don't drink the Kool Aid, man. Like, someone tells you something about Scientology, you see a documentary about it. Like, yeah, there's aspects of that everywhere. Sign up for the class yourself, like, and see what they're about. Really, they're not aggressive. They're not ignorant. They're like they don't sit there and beg for money or nothing, dude. They never didn't have the experience even once, right? They just want you to study the coursework online with them to the point where I'm like, my ability as a student is not quite as good as others, I guess, as far as my attention span and stuff is concerned about like just reading a book and studying shit. Other than that, like they never once asked me for anything, um, or anything, They never once came to my house and bothered me or anything. So I suggest if, in the name of exploring new ideas, at least see what it's about, right? There is no Kool-Aid to drink there is the point, right? They don't even have any Kool-Aid. I asked, and they wouldn't. Yeah, right. Like, no, I'm practically begging you people. Where's the fucking Kool-Aid at? They're like, no, sir, we don't have any Kool-Aid. Like, what? Are you sure? The other guys, all they were talking about was how much Kool-Aid you guys have, right? Like, nope, not even a little bit. All right, well, shit. Seems a lot less exciting now. Maybe that's why I drifted away from my studies, right? Like, I thought there was Kool-Aid, god damn it. Nope. I'm one of those guys that, like, I have to find out shit for myself. Like, you know, people say things, people, whatever. I'm like, I've got to figure it out myself, because I've been lied to so many times that, I'm the only person that's going to either find or give myself the answer to the degree that suffices, right? Like, you can speculate all goddamn day if you want to, but, I gotta find out for myself. Uh, Whether it be, well, working with somebody like John McAfee of all people, or signing up for Scientology, like I see all this shit, man. I got to figure out for myself, right? And needless to say, yeah, I don't really know. I'll save my opinion about all that for a later date, probably. But the thing is, yeah, I mean, I guess some things are worse than they say, and don't believe everything they tell you. I guess about probably with anything though. I don't think that's unique to any one idea or one person or one group. And some things are probably worse than what they say, and a lot of things are exaggerated. Good or bad, really. The fact of the matter is nobody's going to tell you the truth. I know that much. You got to figure it out for yourself. You know, and it's kind of your responsibility to figure out the truth. You can say of all the things that are owed to you, I can't imagine that the truth is one of them, right? As much as you wish it were, it's like depending on your relationship with the person, the news, like they don't owe you the truth, right? They owe you entertainment, in some way, shape, or form. But as far as giving you the truth is not very likely. It's your responsibility to. I mean, and sometimes the truth is subjective too. Where it's like you have to seek the answers yourself, right, and draw your own conclusion. And that's with anything. I wish I had more instances of times where there's probably bunches of them really, but times that I stepped out of my comfort zone in pursuit of what I believe to be the truth. Uh, a few interesting examples, I guess, but I want to know where the fucking aliens are, for one. I want to know where they're at right now, as another thing. That's my next quest, is to figure out where the fucking aliens are. till 8:30 to eat again. Might eat sooner than that. Cooked a bunch of chicken today. Today was my chicken day. But it's kind of interesting. You would think of like if you were to confuse a bunch of people and like scramble their brains and they all spoke these different languages, like the one language you would use to speak to all of them, it looks like would be Esperanto. In all honesty, doesn't it? If you look at the way the words are, you're like, yeah, you might have a better time trying to teach. You might have an easier time trying to teach various. Like if you had one teacher to teach all of these different groups of people a new language, you would probably choose that language. You'd probably use Esperanto. It makes a little more sense. The words are like, oh, well, I recognize that. You would recognize that word from if you were Spanish, if you were Italian, if you were from Portugal or whatever, or if you were from Romania, you would recognize those words, right? At least so far, because it's still, I guess, technically a Latin-based language. Well, what should call it? What should we call it? Oh, Jerry. Uh, 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 recommending hydro appetite toothpaste. Appetite. That's right. Well, the shit about. Never mind. Never mind. Hootie and the Blowfish. The joke is Kanye West is starting a Hootie and the Blowfish cover band. Get it? The old gay fish joke. Hootie and the Blowfish. Oh, Kanye. Kanye West Christmas special. I'd watch it, dude. If they gave Kanye West an hour-long special on TV, I'd watch it for Christmas. How the fuck did these guys get through the gate? They airdropped in or whatever? The ballistas? Glaive throwers? Constructed language. Have you ever seen these conspiracy theories about these guys that come from like missing fucking countries that don't exist and stuff? Like they get picked up and nabbed at airports sometimes. One guy they said, and I think it's just an online conspiracy theory. I can't imagine there's any truth to it, but he had like an ID from a country that didn't exist. He spoke some weird language that didn't exist and all this stuff. He was from a place called Torrid. You ever heard the conspiracy theory about it? Torrid. Torrid. Uh, 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 Conspiracy theory. Not torrent. Torrid. He. It's like one of those like AI generated conspiracy theories you see on YouTube, I think, where the person was like, they said, oh, he was caught he was dressed weird, you know, for the time, and I don't know, man. There are some pictures too, though. Of that one guy that they said was like a time traveler in like some old photograph. The guy did look peculiar, you know. He was dressed like a modern day kind of guy, you know, like if someone from the future were trying to dress like they were from the past, essentially. Which reminds me of the fucking Mr. Show sketch where the people from the future meet the people from the past. Why is that so funny? Why is that so funny, dude? It is so goddamn funny to me. It was Bob Odenkirk. He said, "This is the scene where the people from the future meet the people from the past." Like, why is that so funny? Because you're from the present. I don't know why that's so funny to me. This shit makes me laugh every time. The Mr. Show sketch, like that scene where the fucking it's like the Renaissance fair people meet the Star Trek fair people, right? It's kind of the joke. It's just I don't know why the shit makes me chuckle like it does. But that was on the director's commentary to Mr. Show, so like you had to actually really like that television show to know what that reference was. And I've watched every goddamn second of that show 100 times over, and have watched all of the DVD commentaries too, right? And Bob Odenkirk said, "Yeah, this is the scene where the people from the future meet the people from the past." Like, it always cracks me up, dude. Things like Rick and Morty and Back to the Future. I don't know why time travelers like meeting their own grandkids and stuff always makes me laugh for some reason. I cannot help it. I guess you can learn something new about me if that's if that tickles me for some reason. Shitty paint by number. Everybody knows college kids love shitty paint by number art. Another classic line from the fucking director's DVD commentary for Mr. Show. Shitty paint by numbers art. Because the kid had like a painting on the wall, and it looked like someone it was just a paint by numbers canvas, and someone like painted the thing paint by numbers, paint by number art. It was hilarious. Yeah, Bob Odenkirk's one of the all-time greatest. He sure is. Him and David Cross both some of the greatest. That scene where from Arrested Development where Bob Odenkirk is their therapist or whatever, and he's like, I too have decided to become an actor. Fucking Tobias, god damn it. That character, I swear. He's like, I've decided that I too will become an actor. Like, what a fucking infectious moron. What an infectious moron. God damn it. Marriage counselor Bob Odenkirk.
And Lindsay and Tobias were for the first time addressing their marital problems.
It's like we're face to face now. Like we're really seeing this marriage, and I'm afraid it's a lie.
Bravo. See, if I gave a performance that good, I'd have my own Alias type show.
Stop it! I am so sick of hearing about acting.
Okay. Look, maybe we need a new approach. Let's try some role-playing.
Yes. All right.
Lindsay and Tobias were getting to the heart of each other's vulnerabilities with a role reversal exercise.
Because I'm a woman.
Good.
With a woman's needs.
Louder.
And a woman's urges. And these, Tobias. When was the last time you looked at these?
Yeah, okay. How long is this session?
Okay, well, see, I don't know what's happening here. She's breaking in and out of character.
Because I don't want to be in a character.
Okay, let me stop you guys. All right? Please, let me get in here.
Thank you. God. Thank you.
You've never been a real wife to me, Lindsay.
That's not true, and you know it.
A man is looking back at you, a man with dreams and aspirations.
Meanwhile, Maybe found an address in her mother's appointment book and was getting closer to learning what her parents were up to.
Why? If I know Schwimmer, you're no Jennifer Aniston!
I'm not even Lisa.
I have dreams, Lindsay. Dreams, Lindsay.
Well then, Tobias. Follow those dreams. Make those dreams happen.
What the fuck?
I will.
And scene.
Oh. Wow.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I stepped on your line.
No,
there.
not at all. Lindsay, I mean, did that answer some questions for you?
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah. Now there are 2 men I want to leave.
On to the next Arrested development. Tobias talks Lindsay into another session.
I've decided that I want to become an actor too.
God damn it, dude. Can't win for losing, can you? Impossible to deal with people, I'm sure. Impossible. Despite being fictional characters. Other than that, though, impossible to deal with, I'm sure. Oh, people from the future meeting the people from the past. So we've got an hour before we can eat again. I'm not too hungry. I decided to cut 1 serving of granola out of my diet, so that way 40 less carbs a day, 38 less carbs, which consists of a decent amount of sugar too. And I feel like that'll be like the optimum, optometrist, whatever amount of. See, that's the thing. Is like if this were Esperanto, right? You would think optometrist and optimal would have the same origin, which maybe they do. I can't imagine why or how, but why optimum and optimal and optometrist and optic are all different meanings, right? Well, obviously, like optical and optometrist, that makes sense. But optimal and optimist and all that shit kind of stray from the convention here, whatever you want to call it. God damn it! Is a rogue just whatever? Try to sheep him, right? What are we even doing here? Really now? Ooh. Well, well. Where does the word optimal come from? Comes from the Latin word optimus, meaning best or very good. Now, where does the word optical come from? Optical comes from the Greek word for sight. So, one is from Latin, one is from Greek, Greece, however you would say it. One is Greek, one is Latin. Now, it's kind of strange. Yeah, I wish it made more sense. Basically, is the point I'm trying to make. So I wish it made more sense than that. Ooh. Or I've got to come up with what I'm gonna do for legs. If I'm gonna do compound, like if I'm gonna do squats or just do like leg press or whatever. Seems like I got much more out of doing body weight squats than uh, weighted squats. My legs were sore for like 2 or 3 days after the fact versus like when I do regular squats. It's like I'm not very sore the next day, which they say don't chase the soreness, chase the pump, is what they say. The bros say. What the bros on TikTok say. So they also say you can fertilize your lawn with used motor oil, but that's neither here nor there. Don't actually fertilize your lawn with motor oil, please. It doesn't work. It does not work. Shit. I just need a fucking. Why do I. Like, honestly, I don't even know, man. I need to find a little buddy, man. I need to fucking rent a monkey from someone or something that I can just hang out with, and like, can't you just get like a pet cat or something? I'm like, I guess I could. Pet dog or whatever. It just seems like that's like another thing to take care of, and I kind of want an animal that'll take care of itself, like a human, right? Like a chimpanzee. Like a chimpanzee. Right. Hopefully. But I don't even know. I don't even know. Eventually I'll find somebody. I need to take my challenge tomorrow and like say next Sunday, because Sunday's when there's all these new and unique people at the gym basically, and people I would like to meet, and I always wear my headphones and like find myself zoning out everybody pretty much like I shouldn't do. And I think if I just didn't wear my headphones a couple days a week, I might accidentally bump into somebody and actually make a conversation. Uh, but I'm kind of particular. Oh, those chimpanzees and gorillas won't stop me at all.
My son. If you could say something.
Oh no, I don't even know why bother really. Wow.
Wanted to say something to Paul.
Do you know just how much salt is
Yeah, forgive me for not being more interesting. Or like jingling car keys and making fart noises and stuff. I'm sure my stream would be much more appreciated if I did that. But, you know. God, it gets so, like when it gets this quiet, it's depressing. It's like depressing for it to be this quiet. It's like the fucking, whatever reason. So soft poll, do we think that we're going to see a turnaround in the crypto market before Christmas or after? I mean, I think obviously, well, after Christmas is pretty much guaranteed, considering the timeline that consists of any time past this Christmas, right? But I mean, before Christmas, I mean, it looks like we're seeing some rumblings of something that could indicate like a somewhat of a crypto turnaround or whatever. But what I don't know is like how vital what is this conference breakpoint or whatever it's called, right? Is that a good indicator? 'Cause I remember at some point in time, like I can't remember if it was consensus. This was actually told to me. I didn't necessarily research enough to remember or know, but like at some point in time, it was conveyed to me that like the altcoin season started after the consensus conference at some point in time, right? I wonder if the same thing is possible or potential for what is it called, breakpoint? It just seems like it's almost like crypto is like a disease, right? It's like these people all go to this one spot, they get the fucking crypto flu, and then they go back to their hometowns, and then they spread it amongst themselves, right? And get everybody sick with this internet flu, you know. It's kind of how I see it in my head, right? Whether or not that's exactly how it works, I don't really know, but at some point in time, it's like you get online, right, and you have the best idea on planet Earth, and you can sit there and spam your friends with it until you're blue in the face, right? Until you're blue in the face, right? Until your face turns blue. Yeah, you can spam your friends with it until you're blue in the face, right? And it doesn't do you any good. But it's like as soon as you have somebody's attention in real life, and you're like, hey, you know, you want to see this? Like, derp, 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 you know, type it up on your calculator here and show it to them. Then suddenly, you know, they're like, oh, they're a lot more receptive, you know, like face-to-face interaction, because people have gotten to the point where shilling and people trying to, you know, like the idea that you're going to find any sort of useful information online has almost gotten to, not to say any, but through social media and stuff, it seems like it's impossible to find like useful snippets of information and stuff. It's like you almost have to. It's a much more potent experience to show somebody something in person versus like, you know, because how many times does someone send you a link and say, this is the funniest thing ever, you have got to watch this YouTube video, right? And then you never fucking watch the thing. And it could be your best friend, and like your friend knows your sense of humor, or your friend knows what you like, sends it to you, and you go, man, that fucking guy, you don't really have the time today, right? It could, you know, it's like, no, you don't understand, like, I know you. This is super funny. This is your favorite song. This is a really good cryptocurrency, and they'll go and they'll fuck it off, you know. But if you see them in person and show them, they're like, oh yeah, yeah. Why didn't you show me this sooner, right? Yeah, you're familiar with people that do that, right? I mean, I do it myself. That's how I know. But you know what I mean? Like when you finally get that chance to show somebody something in person, it's like a much more potent experience, you know, as far as like convincing somebody to pay attention to something or whatever. You know, and I pray, I'm not, you know, I'm not banking on it, but I pray that that is the things that are more likely to occur at a conference than it is at like you know, you can recommend meme coins or recommend AIs or recommend layer ones all day on Twitter or X to people, and it you know, mostly just they get ignored because it's such a inundated field. You know, it's a deluge of bullshit mostly. So you know what I'm saying? People tend to turn the volume. People tend to mute the fucking sound altogether after so much noise. And like a conference is like the time their brain goes, okay, time to take it off mute now. You know, essentially, right? Well, now, Jerry. It's almost 8 o'clock. I've been at it for a little over an hour. I guess it's time to call it. I love you guys, and I'll talk.